because we had to find a way as well to communicate with these parents. They were all illiterate. They were pretty intimidated to go to a school. They've never been in a school. Then there was these foreigners that drive the schools or the projects. It took us a while that we found a language. And it's not that you can, like in the West, you can write a note and send, oh, give this to your father or your mother.
Yeah.
They couldn't read or write.
Right.
It took us a while, and we needed to make them part of it because they were our biggest obstacle in the beginning. To convince them that this was an investment for a better future for your child, but also potentially for them. But as I said, their vision is so short, the times is so short, because I don't know if I live in 3 weeks or in 3 years. I have to survive today. So that is a language that we found over time. But these are all these hurdles that you take constantly. So Rupa was there full time for 30 years, and every day, every time there was a problem, there was a solution for it, or we added another program. And that is sometimes always a bit apologetic to our website because people get overwhelmed, but there's so much to share.
In other words, as
And
necessities spring up, then you'd find creative ways to respond to those, and whole new departments would develop.
right, right.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Sridham Mayapur in West Bengal, India. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast. I'm your host today, Kaustubha. Raghunath's taking it easy today. Mara, what is he really doing? I want to know. It's like, is he resting? Is he working?
No, he got up at 3 a.m. to drive the boys to the airport.
Oh, okay.
Because they both had early morning flights this morning. So
family stuff.
Yeah, he was just getting back right as the show was about to start, and I think he may have gone back to bed.
And get
a little rest. He needs a rest. Yeah,
he deserves it. He deserves it. I could see he needs a little rest. He's been moving around so much. He should. And then the holiday weekend, it's supposed to be a time of relaxation, but it can also be a time of stress, Mary. Isn't it true?
It's true. It's true. We had a nice little program yesterday here for some local devotees. Had a little bit of kirtan, some prasad. It was sweet.
I think that's what Super Soul is all about.
Exactly.
I think that's what it's all about. We have a excuse me. We have a special. This is an interview I've been waiting to do for a long time. I'll talk about it in a moment. Bringing on a very special person. But before we do, Mara, any special announcements?
Yeah, just wanted to have a reminder that registration for our next Sage Group session begins on December 14th. And runs through December 28th. And it's session 9 of our Sage Groups. It runs January 6th through March 30th. The Sage Groups were really created to utilize the power of small groups and to cultivate meaningful personal connection and support individuals in their bhakti practice. So you can get more info about the Sage Groups and see the leaders of the next session at wisdomofthesages.com.
I'll say this about the Sage Groups, and I give all the credit to the Sage Group leaders as well as the members. But every time I meet, it happens all the time. It's happening here to me in Mayapur. It happens wherever I go. I meet people that they say, oh, I listen to podcasts every day. And I'm like, oh, that's so nice. Thank you. And then they say, and I'm in a Sage Group. And I'm like, oh, that's really great. And then they start to tell me how much their Sage Group or their Sage Groups have meant to them. Without fail. They start to speak about how much that Sage Group has made a difference in their life. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're like, oh, this stuff is making a lot of sense to me. The whole bhakti thing is cool, and the Bhagavatam is cool, and I'm relating to this, and the people seem nice. If you want it really just in a simple, I could say it's fun. It's in the sense you make friends. That's what's so nice about it. It's really not so much about study, although you do learn. But it's really more about community. It really, it's somehow it really seems like it has a deep impact on people's spiritual lives. And when people are in a Sage Group and they talk to me, they're kind of lit up. They're kind of I can see that that the whole idea of bhakti and practice of bhakti is really is really working in their lives.
Mm.
So maybe you're like, I like bhakti, but I'm a little at a distance from it. If you want to get closer, if you want to bring it into your mind and your heart and really connect, Sage Groups is a great way to do it.
Definitely.
So that's going to happen on the 14th. So there's still time.
2 weeks. Yep.
Okay. And I think what will happen is we'll continue to announce it, and then you want to try to sign up as close to the 14th as you can, because then you get to choose. There's about like 7 to 8 people in a Sage group generally. And so hundreds of people signing up. So if you want to get in the group that you want to get in, which they have all the Sage group leaders listed and the little bios and the times that they do it, then your best shot is to get in early.
Definitely.
But one way or another, we'll find a way to accommodate.
Yeah.
Okay. So all that being said, today we're bringing on it's our interview day, Sunday. We generally have interview days. And we're bringing on, I said this is an interview that I wanted to do for a long time because, Tuesday is called Giving Tuesday, right? Coming up, the Tuesday coming up, I think, right? Yeah, December 3rd.
That's right.
And honestly, I don't even know exactly what Giving Tuesday is, but it's a good day to give. From what I understand, it's a day where I guess it's because the tax season is coming to an end, so it's a good time to give a donation or something like that.
I think
Is that
so.
what it's about?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a fundamental part of the culture of yoga to give in charity, particularly if you're a family person, like if you have a job and you have a home and you have a family, then it's really considered that you're supposed to look out after society. You're supposed to take care of society, and so it's kind of fundamental to give some charity, and especially we try to give a little until it hurts, And an organization that I've been for years, I've been a monthly donor to, is Food for Life Vrindavan. And Food for Life Vrindavan, it's something that I've been aware of since its very origin. When I used to go to Vrindavan back, 30, I've been going to Vrindavan for about 35 years. So I remember Food for Life just when it was starting, somewhere around 30 years ago. With a great soul named Raghunath, and we'll talk more about him. He's a friend of myself and a friend of Raghunath, and he's the one that began Food for Life Vrindavan. But he's Italian, and he's living back in Italy now, and there's new leadership, or people that have been with the organization for a long time. But our guest today, and I want to pronounce this correctly, is Ineke Zondag. Please let me know how bad I messed that up.
Hare Krishna. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
You did really well. I heard you
Okay.
pronounce the name Tineke really good. I thought if you just take the T
Oh, yeah.
off, then you have mine. Good
Now,
morning, everybody.
Tell me where you're from. Originally.
Originally from the Netherlands.
Okay, from the Netherlands. And this is something that just confuses us Americans to no end. Netherlands, Dutch, Holland. How do we figure this?
Yeah, I don't know where it all came from, but I mean, the country is called the Netherlands, and if you say that, people like if you say Holland, everybody knows. But Holland actually is just a province in the Netherlands, and we're already so small, so I don't know why we're even dividing it. But it's where all the action is, in the north and south of Holland, where the big cities are. So I guess that's why. And it's shorter. It probably fits better on the soccer t-shirts, Holland, or I don't know. But it's all the same. Officially it's the Netherlands, but I left it many years ago, over 30 years ago. But currently in Texas.
Well, yeah. So Ineke is the leader of Food for Life Vrindavan and the founder and president of Food for Life Vrindavan USA. And with nearly 2 decades of unwavering commitment, she has dedicated her heart and expertise to uplifting girls and women in poverty. Ineke employs a holistic approach to empower underprivileged girls through free education. We'll hear all about that today. Her tireless efforts not only provide improved opportunities, but also protect these young lives from child marriage and child labor. Beyond her impactful work in India, Ineke is the founder and president of 2 U.S.-based charities focused on enhancing the lives of women and youth. Her relentless pursuit of human welfare and social reform has earned her recognition as an ambassador for change, originally from the Netherlands. Ineke now calls Texas her home base. And now you're in Texas, huh? I've spent, I'm a New
From
Yorker,
all
and
places.
Texas is probably as foreign to me as it is to you. Although
Well,
I've
because
spent some time there.
yeah, the 14 years before we moved, so we're here now 7.5 years, and before this we were in Dubai for 14 years, and we always thought we were going east, like, and I was crossing my fingers because it was always for my husband's work. It was going to either India or Singapore, Hong Kong, wherever. And then
Yeah,
I woke up in Texas. So something went wrong in that planning, but and I was a bit nervous about it, and I couldn't get my head around it. But as with everything else in life, you need to give it a chance. You need to
that's
see
right.
the real thing and not believe all the
You thought it was cowboys riding
stories.
around shooting each other. Yep. Okay.
There are places that they are, but it's for European. Texas is, I think, even bigger than Germany. I mean, it's
Yeah,
and
that's right.
there's great and there's less great places everywhere, and it's the same with people. And I have to say that we lived in 6 countries, 3 continents. Uh, the community sense here in Texas is enormous. I've
Yeah.
never experienced that anywhere else. So, with all the craziness, there's really good stuff happening here as
A
well.
lot of beautiful people down there. Wherever you go, you're going to find beautiful people, right? Especially if
Absolutely.
you're practicing bhakti yoga, you're trying to see the good. You're trying to always understand that beneath, we all have these warped minds in different ways, you know,
Right.
but underneath them all, there's a pure soul always there. And so you can meet good people wherever you go. But why don't I just speak just a bit about how I saw Food for Life at its origin, and then maybe we can talk about how you got involved. That sound okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when Raghunath and we both started going to Vrindavan, the very core of bhakti yoga in one sense, like the place of Krishna's pastimes that's so sacred to us. And we started going there towards the end of the 80s. I think my first time there was 89, and I think Raghunath's first time there maybe in 88. Do you know, Mara?
Yeah, I think it's 88.
Yeah. And now when you go to Vrindavan, boy, it's packed with just it's so crowded and packed. When we were there, it was much quieter, and we kind of got to know everyone. Like we would know the devotees from all around the world. They would come there. And one person that we knew, we were brahmacharis or monks, and there's one monk that was a little senior to us. He was, his guru was a close friend of my guru, and so you get to know each other. Um, and his name was Rupa Raghunath. He was a brahmachari from Italy, living in Vrindavan, and he just started up a little program where he was making prasadam, making khichdi, and I think sweet rice they'd also serve out for the local sadhus and widows and so on. And they would serve them right on the Krishna Balaram temple property, just across from Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi. And I think it was just like a daily program that he was feeding them. And, we'd look at that and say, oh, what a nice service he's doing. We could see that in his heart, there was really a desire to serve and to give. And what was special? To give back to that place that we, in a sense, in one sense we see it as our spiritual home, but in another sense we're coming there as guests. Even in India, when they speak about the ISKCON temple, there's a name. The name that they use is they call it the foreigners' temple. Right? I guess it's the one temple where you go and people are there from all around the world. And it was wonderful to see someone that it kind of appear a little senior to me, but kind of a peer, who had just, with his own determination and creativity, decided, I want to give back to this place and care for the people that are here. And so he started off with that little prasadam distribution program, but over the years it grew and grew and grew. And what was originally called Food for Life Vrindavan began to take on all other kind of services. And perhaps the most heartwarming and really touching and essential service that they do there, they do many, and Ineke can share that with us, but is a girls' school that they developed because, and we'll hear about it, but life can be so hard for many local people due to poverty, and especially for girls. And so, Rupa Raghunath, along with his staff, they began to really do all that they could in all kind of creative ways. And when you really want to do something nice for Krishna's devotees, Krishna gives you inspiration. And what they've done is absolutely mind-blowing. As I think I said, maybe I didn't say, Food for Life Vrindavan is an organization that I give to every month. I've become a monthly donor for years. I've been a monthly donor because it really touched my heart when I saw how they care for these girls, and the selfless service and the expertise that they do it with. So Ineke, could you just begin by sharing with how you got introduced to Bhakti and how you got introduced to Food for Life Vrindavan?
Sure. And I didn't express that, but I'm very grateful that I can be here and that shine light to Food for Life Vrindavan, especially in this
Ooh,
giving time where
yes.
I sometimes wonder, should they have put Giving Tuesday before Black Friday? But it's either people feel guilty that they spend so much and now, but do they have anything left? But anyway, that is that's maybe up to debate. But it is a month where we can where the most funds come in, especially because at the end of the year, the tax reasons, and we are a 501(c)(3) organization. So all these things come to play. But Vrindavan, so how I got involved, it's a bit with a detour, but a wonderful one.
Yeah.
So my husband and I were based in Dubai at that time, and he worked for a company called Peter International. And
Peter
my
Burwash
husband,
International is an organization that I was also familiar with because one of my godbrothers, Yudhishthir, who was the temple president of the Dallas Temple, was a high-level member of that organization, which Peter Burwash is a tennis player. And he met Srila Prabhupada and became very impressed and influenced by him, began to practice bhakti himself. And if you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Peter Burwash, he wrote books, and he was, it's an organization that's there to teach people tennis. But I think Peter Burwash also really tried to teach higher values through tennis.
it was in everything that Peter did.
Yeah.
Bhakti was weaved in, and if you were not familiar with his background and with his connection to Krishna consciousness, you probably wouldn't. But if you are, you can read it in everything. So
Right.
Peter wrote books about
Management, leadership.
tennis, but also you're correct, also about living a vegetarian life.
Right.
So it was very broad. So this was slowly introduced to us, but we had no idea about his connection or any knowledge about Krishna consciousness. So when we were in Dubai and my husband drove Peter back to the airport after one of his visits, my husband was really struggling with Dubai, like the material world that he in, and the madness of it. We were there in the beginning of Dubai. There was only one high building, and then it exploded. And that roller coaster was interesting to be part of, but it was as well very confusing because yeah, it was purely immaterial world. And
Right.
so my husband said to Peter, everybody's raving about Dubai, but this cannot be it, is it? And Peter said, no, keep next February available, and I'll take you to a place where it does matter. So my husband went on a journey with him to India, first time ever. And he had a wonderful 10 days with Peter there, where Peter gave him a crash course on Krishna consciousness from Delhi to
In
Vrindavan,
the
which can
taxi.
be right a 2 hour drive, but it could also be a 4 hour drive. But so that was like, all new information, a lot of information. And then after a few days, Peter introduced my husband Renee to Rupa Raghunath, and they became brothers instantly.
So Peter Burwash had a relationship with Rupa Raghunath already.
Correct. He already knew Peter. He went there before, even took his daughters there, and
Oh.
so yes, they had a relationship.
What year did your husband go there?
I'm so bad with numbers. Think it was 2006 or 2007,
Okay.
something like that.
So Food for Life
And
Vrindavan was up and rolling pretty strong by that point.
right. So the first Sanipani Muni school was there. It was only one school at that time. At the crossing where you come from the Yamuna Highway down into Vrindavan. Of course, there's a commercial center right now, but we used to have a lovely small school there. So that was there, and my husband was the only thing he thought was Ineke is going to love this, and he gave me a wonderful gift, which was he wrote a diary for me about India, because if you ever been to India, it's so intense and every sense in your body gets attacked at the same time.
Yes.
And so it was just for him to be able to express to me. He was writing it down, which was wonderful. So he gave that to me, and I was just touched that he thought about doing that while he was there, but also what he was writing. And this was he felt so drawn to whatever, and he couldn't get his head around what was happening in Vrindavan. So a few weeks after that, we're back to the madness in Dubai. I receive a text message, and it says, "Hi, my name is Rupa. I'm a friend of your husband. I run a school. A Bollywood star is coming to visit the school for 3 days. And I need a photographer for that. But
Was that
actually, I need a
Hema Malini?
no, it was Vivek Oberoi."
Okay.
And he was coming with his father, who used to be a bigger. So it was for Vrindavan, a big thing. And as you know, Bollywood stars are a big thing in general. And he said, "I need a photographer. I need a professional photographer for those 3 days, but actually I need you for 5 weeks. Can you come?" Kind regards, Rupa. Let me know. And I looked at my husband and I was like, "Oh, what do I do?" And he said, "Well, if you can make yourself available, go."
You were a professional
Yes.
photographer at the time.
Right, and I was mainly working for either sports teams, athletes, Getty Images, APTs, and so it's yeah, it was sports and documentary. So I visited a lot of charities for lifestyle magazines and stuff. So I thought, why not? It can only worst thing, what my husband said very wisely, worst thing can happen is you come back early and you had an experience.
Right.
So I went, and it was nothing I could imagine, and more than I could ever imagine, because nobody knows how they react to India. Some people look forward their whole life and they're there, and they run away and they will never come back. And Rupa always says, "I think you were an Indian in your previous life," because it was fine. It was, and I'm very noise sensitive, which is a very bad thing in India.
Yeah.
But I seem to be fine there. And it was this, I think, the combination of getting introduced to Krishna consciousness, what is, in every sense of Vrindavan, especially in those days. It was a little bit more serene than it is now. It's now a
Yes.
complete circus, but it's, you still woke up from the peacock sounds at night.
Yeah.
So, and, there were still a lot of trees and all of those things. And yes, it was mad at the street, but, you were not fearing your life. But it's, so that I was drawn to that. My husband and I were already vegetarians, so you blended in and it all made sense. So all these little steps, but then being at the school and being at Sanipani Muni school with Rupa and seeing Rupa doing this selflessness service with all his heart, because he now lives in Italy, but he used to live almost for 30 years just in the school and doing his thing.
Yeah.
And that thing grew and grew and grew. And every time there is a problem, we add another project to it. So that was my introduction. And these 5 weeks were not enough. And it was also not enough to do my service as a photographer, because there was so many stories to tell.
Mm.
So I came back, and a month later he said, "Can you come?" So when, these SMSs became more frequently. And at the end, it was really, it was really when I was not, and I just said as well, I should not say that in Texas, if I was not shooting in the Middle East for, I was
Yeah.
in India. So my time in India grew and grew. I got a room in the school as well. And it just, it gave me the perfect foundation to see the organization at every level. And every time it hit me that I've seen so many wonderful projects, but this one just made the most sense, not only for where it is, but also the transparency, the holistic approach that they use to not only serve the children or the mothers or the food or the education. It's the whole community that get drawn in to do service, but also and is all lives from it as in salary wise, but also benefits from it. Everybody knocks on the door for help, not only the students but their parents and their the
Yes.
community is there. And it
Once they see within this world there's one organization that's trustworthy and effective and really doing good things, and people start to come from all different angles, I imagine.
it is because people, and I know I really learned that from Americans. They're extremely generous, but they need to know where it goes, and which
Yeah.
is fair. And this is, I once spoke to somebody who runs a really big organization, and gets thrown millions at them. And I was just, and this was new for me. So when we moved from Dubai to America, because my husband needed to be closer to his headquarters for work, and the time difference is just horrible to do business in the Middle East or India with the US. I was heartbroken, and I said to Rupa, I cannot be so hands-on anymore because I moved to the other side of the world. And Rupa said, fantastic, because we need more power on the ground in the US.
There you
Because
go. Yeah.
the Americans are so, and I'm like, oh, I'm so happy I'm going. But it was so true. So I really sort of retired from my passion and work, which is photography,
Yeah.
because I found that other passion and that other goal in life that I never thought that was there. It just embraced me and made, Krishna opened the door for me and made
Mm.
me feel so welcome. And it's such a learning curve. And I didn't really needed to belong to something or an organization, but serving the children from Braj, from Vrindavan, from the holy grounds, from Krishna, is such a privilege. Unfortunately, it's so needed because their situation is
Yeah.
so
Well, let's talk
difficult.
about that. I'll just share one thing quickly. Is when I started going to the school, I used to start to take groups to the school. And we would take them all over India, different holy places, give them mind-blowing experiences. But many people would, when we would ask them at the end, what was the most moving day for you or time for you? So many would say going to this school, how much it touched them, and so many of them became monthly donors to it because it really is touching. And when you would see Rupa Raghunath walk among the children there, it was like he was Jesus. It was like everyone, all the children would just like crowd around him. They loved him,
And he would hate it so much that you say that, because he always says, people put me there, but I don't want to be there. And that's so true. If and that was something that was so touching to me as well. He was the first one who gets his hands dirty in everything that we did,
Mm,
or do a sacrifice to
yes.
to go where we needed to go, or to make a difficult decision or do the difficult thing. He is he is such an example in doing service.
Mm,
And it's such a privilege to have learned from somebody like that, because it's a different thing. And I thank you for bringing groups there and for being a donor and a sponsor, because that is our backbone. And I can talk for hours about our schools, but if you walk through the school gate, that's where
yeah.
the magic happens.
You
When
feel
and
it.
the
You feel
girls,
it
you see it,
immediately. Yeah.
right, because you know where
And
they live, you see where they live, and then you see the moment. There's so many levels, and of course education, because that's the main reason he started the school, because it was
yeah.
only food distribution. He was thinking, where is this going? Where,
Well,
this is only fixing. Sorry.
yeah. No, no, no. This is great. Why don't we just, why don't you start with the plight of these girls? Why don't you help us understand what their lives are like and what they struggle with growing up there, and then maybe begin to explain how Food for Life Vrindavan began to address that.
Right. So these girls, most people are familiar with the caste system in India, and it's really the level that you're born into. And the community that we serve are called the untouchables. So they are really the poorest of the poor. And they don't, because some people say as well, everybody in India has the right to go to school, and that is correct. But can you go? Because you still have to pay for the uniform, you still have to pay for the books, you still have to pay for transportation. And in the Indian culture, the very deeply embedded culture, unfortunately, parents who are poor and have to make a choice where their one meal goes, although they have maybe two, three, four, five, six children, it will go to a boy because the boy is their asset. The boy will take care of the parents when they grow old. It's
Right.
their pension, it's their security for the future. Where a girl will get married and move to the in-laws. And for the in-laws to accept the girl, still a dowry is being paid at a wedding.
Yeah.
So the parents of the girl need to pay the in-laws to take in their girl.
So
Um,
it sounds, obviously it sounds so cold, but this is what poverty does to even
I,
good-hearted people. They're in very difficult circumstances.
I fully agree, and I want to enforce this. These people are not evil. These people
Yeah.
do love their daughters, but because of these old traditions, and it's their duty to marry a girl. That's really the only really duty a parent has of a daughter, is marry her.
Hmm.
There is another level to that tradition, and unfortunately, it is the younger the girl, the cheaper the dowry.
Mm.
So if you don't have any money to start off with, but you feel it is your duty to marry the girl, she will go as soon as she is ready to get married, which is her menstruation age.
Mm.
It can be 10, it can be 11, can
And
sometimes even be
what
9.
family she goes to i i under that kind of pressure may not
It's
be the
many
most
times
loving.
because,
Yeah.
right, but also it is many people say, "Oh, it's this old man who wants to." No, it's many times in these it does happen, unfortunately, but many times it's to spotlight family, where the boy is maybe 16, 17, and there is not culture of dating. So when a youngster, also sometimes girls, but also boys, are starting to get interested in a girl, and as well, the thing is, you cannot ruin a girl's reputation, because if she would date another boy or been seen with another boy, even talk to another boy, her reputation is gone, which
Right.
means it's harder for her to get married, or the dowry gets bigger. So the reputation is what the parents protect.
Right.
Um, but it also means that if she has to walk to a school where she might be accepted with a bribe fee or with whatever, because no school is really happy with an untouchable, um, she still needs to go to school where on the street happens the most harassing,
So
or
much
that you
trouble
can meet
can.
boy, or right. So the parents will keep the girl from school because it's too dangerous for them, for the girl to walk to school, and they cannot afford the bus or the tuk-tuk, or
Right.
however she can go to school safe and unassisted. So it's all these little practical things that we were figuring out in the beginning, like, okay, we opened the school, we would literally go into the slums and drag these girls, and the girl was crying and kicking, and the parents were doing the same. And what were we doing? Because the girl should carry bricks on her head, at least she makes some money and we can buy the food at the construction site. But we were taking her, and the
They would
parents
have
were,
no vision of how she might actually grow into a
it,
competent, confident person in the world.
no. And poverty doesn't make you worry about the future, it only makes you worry about
Right.
today.
Right.
Today
Can you
is what we
describe
face.
Can you describe a bit about their living conditions, their homes, and what they're like?
I mean, they're slums. It's a plastic hut, a few sticks and some tarp over it.
Sometimes
Um,
it's nothing more
eh,
than that.
Many of more than that. I mean, it has improved slightly, I would say, but then there's still, it's the dangers, when it's many times it's siblings, older siblings need to take care of younger siblings.
Right.
There's men roaming around on the streets in the slums.
Can be
It's
dangerous in
it's
different ways.
boys there. It's so these
Disease
girls.
and
Oh,
medical conditions.
after COVID, what was horrible. Then we had floods in Vrindavan, and people were stuck in their slums or on roofs of their little huts for weeks and had to drink the water from the Yamuna. I mean, can you
It's very
imagine
polluted.
everybody said, why are you still raising funds for medical? Because the floods are over now. Well, then it was eye diseases, it was typhoid, it was, all these numerous, it's every time it is another hurdle. And these people just cannot get back on their feet, especially COVID has set us back in time with gender equality about 50 years, but also economy. These people were day workers. There was no, and we had to close our school for the first time in 30 years over COVID. We could not provide meals. So we had to literally throw, because lockdown there is a tingy to the entering of the slum. And we had to throw over the sacks of rice and lentils and the vegetables we have in our organic farm. And to make them survive because they couldn't earn anything, but they couldn't go out.
Right.
Um, it was horrible, but and then there was the floods. There was a heavy rain season. Delhi opened the dams, and whole of Vrindavan and Braj was flooded. So these people were literally waking up to rising water within half an hour. It was at their ankles, within an hour to their knees, and it was everything was
And when your
gone.
home is just a tarp and a stick, then you're really
But
got
it's
nowhere,
their
no shelter.
palace. It's
Yeah.
it's their only shelter they have, and it's, for us it sounds so, you know why, and we discovered as well, and that's as well, it was a proof for us that the school does work, because when Rupa Raghunath said only giving them meals is only a problem solver for today but not for tomorrow, only education will provide them a better future over time. We're very realistic. I mean, it will take generations to break traditions and the system. But our girls, if you give us your daughter and she can, we will take care of her. We will give her transportation. We will give her medical care. We will give her a uniform. We will give her books. We will give her a winter uniform or a scarf
Y-
and a sweater and
Those, I
all
think
the
even those details make a huge difference in their life, that they have nice, clean clothes, they look dignified, and
Right, right, because
it's a
that's
big
where you
deal.
start to build up a community, give
Yeah.
them the respect and the dignity to be seen. These people have never been seen. They literally do not exist.
Mm.
I really seriously think India has no idea how many people live there, because this community doesn't exist, and they're huge.
Yeah.
They're, you know, families have Families are still so big for many reasons. One, birth control doesn't really is not a subject that
Mhm.
exists or is open to discuss. Then, if you have a few girls, but you still are going for the boy,
You keep having
you
more
know that
children.
you
Yeah.
keep having more children. All these things. It's this
Yeah,
this
people need to
snowball.
understand it's not just that they like boys better, but that's their, like I think you said, it's their pension in a sense. That's their, for
Their
parents, they need to have a,
security,
yeah, for a
right?
boy to take care of you in your old age.
Absolutely, and as well, they do love their girl. We see it now. As I said, years ago, we were going to slums and literally dragging kids off, and that is the power of the sponsorship. In the old days, it was really, oh, you sponsor, thank you, kid in the school. That transparency. It was really in that way. And now, when I go to Vrindavan, I still try to go 2 months a year. There's lines when they know that when we're there and we do the admissions. There's lines of parents with their girls there. Please take my girl into the school
Mm.
because we have our first graduates, and then it didn't stop after 12th grade because we take them from kindergarten till 12th grade. Then the girls say to us, Prabhuji, Mataji, what are we doing now? You made us dream. You made us believe in a better future. But what happens
Right.
after 12th grade? I want to become a nurse. I want to become an accountant. I want to become whatever. And you made us dream. And now what? So we add another program, college and university fund. So we have now 20 of our employees were ex-students. They're teachers. They work in the sponsorship department, in the media department, in counseling. It's this holistic approach that
Yeah.
it's full circle. They because many people say, oh, don't you want to go them abroad? No, we would like them to elevate the community. We
Yes.
would like them to that the parents see, oh, she can also support us or have a better future because now she is also working. And we now have the first husbands that allow, which I know it sounds in the West, it sounds really that was still the case. Yes, a girl was born to make chapatis and now she can have an income and the whole family has a better future.
Right.
So Rupa calls it the silent revolution, and that is what it is. It's a silent revolution that unfortunately will not end soon, but it's one that we're dedicated our lives to, and it's an incredibly worthy case, and we see that it's working, and it makes us immensely proud. And it makes me proud that we have now HR managers in Noida or in Mathura, or we have girls that run restaurants in Vrindavan. When you go to MVT, almost all
Yeah,
the
that's
girls
all.
are ex-students.
Everybody that's working in the restaurant are ex-students there. Yeah.
Right. And so they make a living, they have that excitement. But what makes me most proud is as well these girls that tell us at 18, we would love to get married. And the only thing we can say, if this is your free choice, please send us an invitation. And they then move to a village. And so many of them, even this week, they called us and say, can we have last year's school books? Because I'm teaching now the ladies in the village because
Hmm.
nobody can read or write here and I can teach them. That is what makes us proud because that is the silent revolution, not the ones that we hear about and are in the limelight. It's the ones that will improve the rural areas of India over time.
Very nice. Could you maybe share some stories of particular girls and what they struggled with and how
Sure.
their lives may have changed?
I once received a phone call from a number that I didn't get and was India, and I picked up. It was still when I lived in Dubai, and it was one of our students. In the old days, Rupa and I knew all the girls. So, we had a small group. Now we have 1,300 students, so it's a bit harder to
1,300. That's great. I
and
remember
yeah,
when
schools.
I
The
remember when I
small
first
one,
see
right?
the little ox drawn school bus, which was basically it looked like a little cage, like a sweet little cage, like a cage you'd want to be in, and there's little kids in that box, and the ox was bringing them to school. It was like the cutest thing I'd ever
Right.
seen. But there
And that
wasn't so many
serves as
students back then.
and that's Rupa's mind. It serves two purposes because we have a Goshala as well, a cow sanctuary. So we have the bulls, and the bulls were going a little bit cuckoo with all the cows around. So we needed to keep them
Keep them
busy.
working.
So they're pulling the school bus, which allows us to go to the remote areas where the school bus is so expensive, but the school bus couldn't get there. Unfortunately, the police has stopped us in Vrindavan because of the traffic.
It's
We
too
were
crowded.
causing a lot of, yeah. So, but we can still, because we now, since 7 years, we have a school in a rural area called Kikinagla, where we moved that serves the rural
Okay.
villages. We have our organic farm now because food was getting so expensive. So we grow our own vegetables now because we still feed. It's not that the food program is over. We still feed 2,500 people a day. And that's
Mm.
the students, our staff, and the community in Vrindavan. So, and then we have our Goshala, our cow sanctuary as well. So that still goes on. But in these old days, first graduation class was 12 girls. It
Mm.
was,
Right, right.
so you knew
Now it's
everybody.
over 100 for
But
each one of those girls.
Right, which is fun as well, and it's a louder party, which is always good in India, the farewell party. But one of the girls called me and she said, "Mataji, you have to come because my mother is going to marry me." And I think she was 11 at that time, and I was like, "What happened?" Because the girl normally we make the parents aware if the girl enters the school, you're committed until she's 18. She's with us until she's 18. Because it's a very tough rule which we need to enforce to make them understand how serious we are. But my heart bleeds for the girls
Yeah.
that are getting married. If the girl gets married under 18, we have to let them go. Because if we keep them in the school, it's the parents don't get the message that it's not okay. Of course, we always strive. She's close to her exam. We will allow her to do the exam, or in the background, we will help her. But in the school,
But
we have to make a
your
very
message
firm
is we'll take
standpoint.
care of her, right? Like we're going
We
to take care of her food and we're going to
we
take care of her
we
clothes and we're going to
we
be
don't
there for.
drop anybody. I don't think we
Yeah.
ever dropped anybody or
But in other
denied
words, they know
anybody.
that by sending her to that school, she's going to be very well taken care of in ways that
Right,
they couldn't provide themselves. But the
right.
commitment that they had to make is let her grow up and go to this school and not be
Because that is one
separated.
of the reasons they would not send the girl, because as I said
Yes.
before, they were used in child labor. The parents
Right.
go to the construction site, they go and they carry bricks on their head or whatever. It's mainly the women that carry bricks on the construction site. And the kids would do that from a very young age. So if we would take them, the parents would fight us because we took money from them. But then we said, but you don't buy her meat. We feed her, we dress her,
Yeah.
we take care of her. And it took a while, because we had to find a way as well to communicate with these parents. They were all illiterate. They were pretty intimidated to go to a school. They've never been in a school. Then there was these foreigners that drive the schools or the projects. It took us a while that we found a language. And it's not that you can, like in the West, you can write a note and send, give this to your father or your mother.
Yeah.
They couldn't read or write.
Right.
It took us a while, and we needed to make them part of it because they were our biggest obstacle in the beginning. To convince them that this was an investment for a better future for your child, but also potentially for them. But as I said, their vision is so short, the times is so short, because I don't know if I live in 3 weeks or in 3 years. I have to survive today. So
Yeah.
that is a language that we found over time. But these are all these hurdles that you take constantly. So Rupa was there full time for 30 years, and every day, every time there was a problem, there was a solution for it, or we added another program. And that is sometimes always a bit apologetic to our website because people get overwhelmed, but there's so much to share.
In other words, as
And
necessities spring up, then you'd find creative ways to respond to those and whole new departments would develop.
right, right.
So tell me about this girl.
So
So she was going to be married
so
off.
yes, so she called me. Sorry, we another
Yeah, yeah.
detour. She calls me, and I'm like, but why? And I knew her mother very well, and so I flew in, and I went there, and I said, what is the reason? What is the reason that you're a good girl? You don't have a boyfriend. Not that
Hmm.
you cannot have a, but in their
Yes, you're
minds,
following all
in
the
their
social
culture,
etiquette.
you're following all the rules, and you done good in school. And because I said as well, we have to release you from school, and it just breaks your heart that you have to do those things. So she said, well, the home is a problem. So I went to her home, and they were living in this unfinished building. So it's raw. So it's a skeleton.
Mhm.
It's concrete and no roof on it. So you had all these floors. I think it was 5, 6 floors. And so when we were walking along these dangerous open half finished stairs all the way up, they had a little covered hut on the top floor, and an open space where they would cook and where they would wash themselves, etc. But it was among higher buildings. So mom's worry was, and she had a sister in the school which was a year younger, and they would both be married off to two brothers, if I'm not mistaken. And I was talking to the mother, and I said, why? What is your reason? Why are you doing this? And she said, look, men are looking down to my beauty, and they were stunning, to beautiful girls. And people are starting to talk about them because they know when they wash their hair. And you have to imagine as well, people of the slum wash themselves with clothes on. It's not that, and as well, you cannot be naked in front of Krishna, or, they literally wash themselves dressed. But men were looking down at these girls when they were showering, and people were starting to talk about it. And they were starting to,
As if they're putting on a show when really they're just trying to survive under the circumstances that they're.
Right. So when we were walking up the stairs, I saw a few of those bare floors that I didn't see a hut on. And I asked the mother, I said, why don't you move down? That you have a roof. And she said, I cannot afford it. So I asked, what is the difference? And she said in rupees, and I figured it out. It was about $20 a year in rent, that it was more expensive to live on the roof or to live on the third floor. And,
But that
so
gives
I
you an
said,
idea of the level of poverty that we're talking about. That's someone that
right,
can't spend $20 extra a year to have a roof over their head.
right. Or marry off your girls
Or marry
at
off, yeah.
11 and 10 because you cannot afford $20. And so I said, if I put $20 on the table, are you moving down? And she said, oh, can you pay everything? And my daughter needs new clothing. And I said, well, stop right there. But so she moved, and we stopped the wedding. So it's not always fighting the police or fighting the parents. It's
Finding
offering
some,
a solution to
yeah.
very practical, almost simple
Yeah.
problems for us.
Really getting
So
involved and knowing the people that it's not a faceless organization. It's an organization that really gets there and gets to
right.
know the people that they're serving.
Or the girl that comes to us crying and say, I have to quit school. And you're asking why. And she said, my father was a tuk-tuk puller, so a bicycle rickshaw. And his back pain, he cannot work. So now I have to work because he cannot afford the medication. So then you find out if you can buy support his medical bill, he is back on the bike and she's back in school. So
Right.
all these things is like, it is troubleshooting every day. We're always, when people say, what are you doing in India? So putting down fires, and the fire can be really small, but can be huge in somebody's life. And that is what we do with, and I thank you for being a sponsor. So every child in our school has a sponsor. And that gives us the financial backbone, the foundation that we can serve them. And with all the donations and extra projects, because of course the costs have risen like anywhere else, and the prices in India have gone up so much. Inflation is incredible. With all extra, it's a full package in the sponsorship, but also all the other projects that you see in our website is extra funding because everything has gone so expensive. So we can focus on maybe the winter uniforms as extra, or now for example, we're renovating and reviving our library, which is, we're trying to give them a school that is the same as every other school. They are.
I've seen that the atmosphere in that school doesn't. You wouldn't know those girls are living in poverty by the way they're dressed, by the way they behave, by the way they speak, by their enthusiasm and happiness. I think in that school, through all that you do, whether it be a library or and everything else, it's given them a vision of that they can live beyond the very difficult circumstances that they've grown up in.
Right. And giving them the dignity and the belief that they're being seen, that they are worthy, because that is, karma is something wonderful, but also if you believe they believe they're born into this caste for a certain reason. So that's because in the beginning years, I always thought, why is nobody angry? Why don't I see a revolution here? Because
Hmm.
this layer of the community, I think, outnumbers the rest of all the layers of the community. But if you believe that you're born in that caste for a certain reason, you also
Then you
believe
don't
that you can
deserve
never
any
get out
more.
of it,
Yeah.
right? And if you make them feel worthy, feel seen, feel all these things, then as I said, when they came to us after 12th grade, and now, so you made us believe we could do this. Now we do this, and we can. They're so pure. They're so if you ask a girl what is the least part in what we do, what is the least part you like, and they're like, holidays, because we cannot come to school. That is the only place they are free, they're safe, and they can be a child. They can play, they can, the after school program does Odessi dancing, um, does theater, does music, does embroidery, does computer lessons, does the library is open, karate, martial arts, self-defense, all these things we give them. They would never,
No.
never be able to get access to these things.
And they also do a lot of beautiful kirtan, and it's also a real uh, very rich Krishna bhakti culture that they're growing in. Obviously, they're in Vrindavan, but in the school, it's
Right.
wonderful.
And it's the highlight for every visitor, as you said. We have,
Yeah.
incredible journeys, and that is, as I said before, it's so valuable to us that groups come to visit us, because I can talk about this, but being there, walking the streets of Vrindavan, seeing what they endure every day, and then see them coming running through that school gate, just because they're safe. And the kirtan in the morning is a celebration every morning of half an hour of kirtan, dancing, praying every day, different prayer, a different devotion, and then thoughts of the day. They're on stage with thoughts of the day. They can express themselves. We, in the beginning, especially now, it's better. We check if they're all okay. We have medical centers in the school, so the nurses there, kids know where to go when they are in trouble, when they are hurt, when they don't feel well. We have bed bunks there. They can sleep it off. Most of them sleep on dirt, on the floor, in
Yeah.
mud and sand.
You
There's
get
so
sick
many
and there's no
diseases.
medicine, there's nobody to take care of you.
Right.
Yeah.
We start a day with a snack. Nobody can learn when they're hungry. They get a very nutritious khichdi every day, or a different menu. There's a different menu every day.
Hmm.
So, it's wonderful for visitors, and we embrace that people come. You can be part of the kirtan, which is, yeah. If I have a down moment or think, why am I, it's not
Yeah.
always, it's difficult. It's hard work, and it's heartbreaking many times. And you always have to, have the happy face on and the positive, but it's most of the stories you just cannot share, even because they're
Sure.
heartbreaking. And it's the kirtan is what lifts everybody up.
Yeah. We're running out of time. I want to mention, I believe on YouTube you have a nice, like, 8-minute video or so that
Right.
really gives
I,
people a
I would
taste of
I
what's
would go
going
to the
on.
website, because that
Okay,
video is on the website. So if you go
great.
to fflv.org, so foodforlifevrindavan.org, FFLV, it on the beginning first page it says watch video, and that gives you an 8-minute video. It's slightly older, but it's my favorite, of
You know
Rupa
what? That was one of our
Raghunath.
groups. Like Raghunath is there, and Joe
Right,
Stevenson. These are
right,
some of the
right,
people. Yeah.
correct. Yeah, and so it's still working, because it's so the essence of, and Rupert. We have more wonderful videos, but that's where Rupert talks about it. And when you see him and talk about it, I've seen it a million times. It's
You cry.
you know you do.
You cry. Yeah,
You do.
it's really heart touching. So there they can also find information if people would like to become a monthly donor or a donor in any way.
You can go through the website. You can, of course, always contact me. There are some contact details on it about FFLV USA. USA covers a lot, covers South America, covers the Middle East, covers a lot of Europe as well. So you can always reach out. It's, my direct email is Ineke, INEKE, @fflv.org. So you can always reach out to me as well. But the website it's overwhelming, but it gives you a real sense of if you feel you would like to contribute a lot of different ways. And if you say recurring is a bit too much for me, there's so many incredible worthy causes that also every donation goes a long way.
And maybe I'll just end with this, is that beyond the wonderful service it is to do for another human being, to help care for someone like this. People want to give, but you always want to make sure you're giving to an organization that's actually really carrying out their mission. And believe me, Food for Life Vrindavan is really doing that in an exceptional way. But beyond the wonderful gift that is to serve in this way, to support in this way, when you give to Food for Life Vrindavan, you're helping the Brijabasis. You're helping those people that grew up in the land of Krishna, those people that are all very dear to Krishna. So from the bhakti perspective, it also has tremendous meaning that, like, you're giving back and you're sacrificing to help Krishna's people. And there's no doubt that that one will be very blessed for giving to these girls. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for giving me time to speak. Thank you.
You shared so much with us, but actually there's so much more to share. Going to that website, I think, and really there's nothing like visiting the place itself to really get it. If you go to Vrindavan, try to visit the school there. And it's Giving Tuesday, so it's a great time to do it. It's coming up. Thank you, Mara, for sticking with us.
Thank you, Prabhu. Great show today. And I'll put all the links for Food for Life Vrindavan in the show notes also. In the episode
Okay, so you just have to go to the show notes, whether you're seeing it on YouTube or any of the audio platforms. The links will be there for you to find all the information. And we're back tomorrow.
Yep, we're back tomorrow, 7 a.m.
Okay, you make sure Raghunath's awake, okay? But make sure he gets good rest today.
Yeah.
Slow him down.
Do the best I can.
Slow him down a little bit. Make sure he gets some good rest, because he needs it. I just saw something else, like Raghunath's going to be in Sweden in April. I'm like, what?
Yeah, he's got a big Europe tour planned for April.
Got a Europe tour. He's going to South America too, right?
Yeah, he's going to Brazil like next week or in a week and a half.
You make sure he's resting a little bit while he's there. Yeah. Even if you have to drug him a little bit, it's okay. He doesn't have to know. Slip it in that mushroom drink that you make for him.
Hello him out a little.
All right. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to being with you again tomorrow. And as Raghunath always says, it's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. And let the magic flow. Mwah.